What's up, gang? Welcome to Room and Board. My name is Chris George, and today we have another episode of Crowdfunding Countdown, where we take a look at every single board game campaign finishing up this week. We're doing this again. Haven't we hit our limit on new board games? Isn't doing this every week like we're swimming upstream against a tide of plastic and fun? I don't know. I wrote that question without having an answer. What I do know is two things. One, I read through the rulebook so you don't have to, highlighting interesting mechanics that I think maybe you'd want to be aware of. And two, I'm getting significantly better at segues, but not as much as this guy. So let's get into the week. As always, I look at things based off of the time at which they're ending and no other criteria. The main reason being it's usually nice to see all the stretch goals that you can get, and you can't really do that at the beginning of the campaign. Plus, there are so many games to keep track of that this lets me just focus on what I need to focus on. Kind of like just-in-time manufacturing. And that's never backfired for anyone. So let's get into the week. And unfortunately, first off, we have tournament fishing. Yes, you have probably heard of tournament fishing. And if you have, you should probably just skip this segment if you'd rather not hear or be reminded of just horrible behavior. This is also your trigger warning for topics along the lines of sexual assault. And I'm probably going to use bad language here too, although I will endeavor to save or edit those out so I can earn my $1 that I make in ad revenue on these videos. So let's try to calm ourselves down here just from the start and replace this photo with something better. Something more calming. Because the next segment is going to be anything but. So at least we've got these cute little puppies to calm us down. So the gist of this controversy, if you haven't heard of it, and God, I don't want to be talking about this. It's been talked to death already, but also I'm on the internet and you can believe I got some stuff to say. And I also believe that if you remain silent, you condone bad behavior. And so why not revisit it once more? Finally, will be the last time anyone ever needs to talk about it, or anyone needs to talk about the gaming goat in general. The gist of it is, this guy, Jeff Berggren, whose name sounds like you're choking on a hamburger, owns the Gaming Goat, which is a company that resells Kickstarters at a higher cost, capitalizing on your FOMO. Actually, their prices are fairly decent in terms of what the aftermarket speculation prices usually are. I'll give them that. But they're actually producing their own game, producing a Kickstarter, which is great. Investing in new content instead of taking other people's content and trying to make more money off of them than average retailers. Anyway, they're producing this Kickstarter called Tournament Fishing. It's a board game about, you guessed it, fishing. And they had this big old frog on the cover. I'm not showing anything other than puppies. Calm me down a bit more. And the frog, his hand was kind of shaped in what looked to be like the OK symbol. And this was based off of a real frog picture. But somebody posted on Twitter along the lines of, oh hey, remember that time white supremacists co-opted Pepe the Frog and the OK symbol, and adding both of them together is not a great thing and kind of feels like a dog whistle to white supremacists? This is a thing that you should probably change. Also, Jeff Berggren, you're a dick for other personal reasons. That was the gist of this message and the intention behind it. And so the correct response to something like this is to say, oh wow, I did not even see that imagery. That's not what this was about. It was actually based off a picture of a real frog, and you can see it's pretty much copied directly from the frog, but you're right, I certainly don't want to be even unintentionally promoting white supremacy, so yeah, sure, sorry about that. Thanks for bringing it to my attention. Because I'm running a business, and apparently I'm alienating some people with this unintentional parallel. So yes, obviously I should change it, because why would I want to be associated with stuff like that? Does Jeff Berggren do this? I bet you can guess that he doesn't. Instead, Jeff Berggren doubles down on this imagery, basically saying, oh no, this frog, he's A-OK. Frack you for even suggesting I alienate people. I'm gonna alienate you even harder. And then he changes his Facebook profile picture to him on top of the frog, because ha ha ha, throwing white supremacist overtones into the face of visible minorities is a really funny thing to do. And if you don't think it's funny, then you must not be an immature 12-year-old man-child. Oh, sorry. Whoops, you must not be a non-snowflake like me, whose feelings don't get hurt so easily, even though you're lashing out with hurt feelings in a pretty extreme way. And then he makes a joke, just out in the open, basically saying that the only way to deal with this person to make them any fun would be to rape them. As you can see, a totally reasonable and measured response from someone who's obviously a really good person. Honestly, just you, Jeff Berggren. This is the 21st century. We don't rape people anymore. It's not a funny thing to joke about. But this is where I started tuning into the story, and I was like, wow, this is extreme. And then I thought, that name sounds familiar. And maybe it sounds familiar because if you Google him, there are so many things along the lines of, yeah, hey, Jeff Berggren's a dick. But back when I was starting to make YouTube content, I made a video about my favorite deck builder, Attack on Titan, which is incredible. Check it out if you can. The game, not the video. But hey, you can check out the video too, because the game's a little harder to find now. Not important. And I posted it in the Board Game Revolution community Facebook group that I've talked about frequently on this channel, because the topic of the week was, you guessed it, your favorite deck builders. And there was one comment on this Facebook post. Most people were pretty enthusiastic, but there was this one comment, one sarcastic piece of dog shit, who felt like he needed to comment, felt like he needed to have his voice heard on this subject. Because if there's one thing us straight white men like to do, it's have our voices heard. I would know. I need you to hear me right now. That's me! And I think I had something like 600 subscribers at the time. And there was this one guy who really felt like he needed me to know that, hey, if you want to grow your subscriber count, you should probably make videos about games that haven't been out of print for 4 years. Ha ha ha. Which, I mean, he's right, it's totally valid. But also, not the point in that particular video, the point being to contribute and be a part of a Facebook group that has brought me joy, talking about a weekly discussion and sharing my favorite deck builder. And doing it in the medium of video because why not? I enjoy creating videos. But if there was one type of guy who takes it upon himself to actively shit upon people when they stumble across them, to belittle them, to fuel their sense of self-importance to make up for their clear low self-esteem or fragile ego, it would be, I'm sure you've guessed it, John Blumpkin. Is that not his name? Forgettable. Somewhere out there's a John Blumpkin who's gotten very upset, and I'm very sorry for disparaging your family name. But I thought, you know what? That tracks. This guy is a dick. And this guy is the type of guy who needs to go out of his way to feel superior over people who are trying to share things that they're excited about. And so, of course, it's the same guy. Anyway, because of all of his horrible decision-making, most companies have now cut ties with the Gaming Goat. And honestly, I don't care. I am happy. The people who work for the Gaming Goat, some of them have gone independent because there's a bunch of different stores out there. And great, they've got it already. And the best part about this whole thing is that he was in the right at the beginning. You can easily say, oh yeah, like, clearly not intentional. Here's the picture of the frog. It's the same thing. But just like, this is the most mind-blowing example of horrible public relations, of people's true personalities coming across. And yeah, escort those types of people out of Gen Con, because if you're gonna make jokes about how you would be fine with raping a woman, and that's the only way to make her fun, honestly, clearly you're not contributing to the safe spaces that conventions should be for everyone. Whew. You know, Canadians, we have a stereotype of being kind, apologetic, and gentle people. I don't know, maybe. That's who I am at my core. And yet, I'm kind of fired up right now and pretty happy that I wasn't there or haven't met this man in person. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry for taking the Lord's name in vain for all you out there, but I didn't realize that we still needed to learn these sorts of lessons about how to interact with each other on a basic don't make jokes about sexually assaulting level. What a way to start this video. We need some extra jokes to go through this for the rest of it.
Hey, wise guy, you want jokes? I got a joke. How about that busted up face of yours, pal?
I mean, it's not quite what I meant, but I appreciate you trying to lighten the mood.
Mood? What mood? The only reason I haven't popped you is because my old lady's sweet on you. I hate your
fair.
stinking guts, wise guy.
Excuse me, Sonny, who are you calling an old lady? I'm 42.
This may end up being positive for me after all. Aside from all that, that doesn't mean that I didn't read through the rulebook. Because just because the publisher is a raging a-hole, maybe this is the best game of all time. I mean, it isn't, which thankfully it's not. It's decidedly average. It's fine. It's mediocre at best. Which is great, because then you don't have to worry about that sort of inner conflict of wanting to take a stand and not support people like this. But you also have to consider the other people behind the scenes, right? So I try to consider the designer, who it's not his fault that the publisher is horrible, even though I think he's made some questionable comments and whatever, but it's obviously coming from a place of anger. I don't know. I don't care. Anyway, I read the rulebook, and this is a type of game that I will not be sad that I'm missing. I don't ever envision a time in my life where I would need or really want to even play this game. The one mechanism that people might enjoy, I guess, there are 5 lake piles, and you're going to cast your fishing rod into one of these piles, and you get to peek at it, and if it's a fish, you can try to catch it, but your hook might get snagged on a rock. That's what you get when you just throw a fishing rod into the lake without scoping it out first, I guess. So if you wanted some deck building with some memory aspects, well, that's the main draw to this game. But I mean, come on. There are so many better deck builders out there, like Attack on Titan, or Trains, or Clank, or even Backyard Chickens. It's about the same price, was on Kickstarter recently, and hey, you don't have to support a publisher who is just the worst. I'm exceptionally angry right now. But we got through it. Thanks for sticking around, I guess. I honestly hope you didn't. Thanks for letting me get that little bit of anger off my chest. And we've got the puppies. Clearly that has been building inside me for weeks, and I needed to say some things. I don't know why I spent so much time rehashing it. I really don't, but I thought I'd add my little personal contribution to said story if you needed more emphasis as to why John Blumpkin ain't that great. So let's move on. Hopefully you're just tuning in now. We do have a great week. There are some exceptional games that are coming out, some that are really exciting, and the first one of those is ScandalOh. Speaking of scandals, funny how that worked out. Wow, I was talking for a long time. I am so sorry. And thank goodness this is the next one, because their video brings me inexplicably so much joy. Or maybe it's the art style. Whatever the case, it's another deduction game by the creators of Awkward Guests. And if you haven't heard of Awkward Guests, well, honestly, I can't tell you that much about it because I've never played it. But that hasn't stopped me from actively putting it on my wish list and telling people, oh yeah, I think I'd really, really like this game. This would be a fun Christmas present, it looks good. And it's given me that impression without looking into it at all. No deduction on my part. And ScandalOh, well, it kind of gives me the same feeling as that. And a lot of people were super high on Awkward Guests. They said they really liked it a lot, and I particularly enjoyed deduction games. And this video alone makes me feel like I need to deduce how to play it because it doesn't really tell you. But I don't care. Maybe it's the art that I love so much. I don't know. I don't know how they incite these sorts of feelings in me. It's $47 for the base game, and while a lot of people poo-poo app-driven games because they inexplicably think that phones will cease to exist in the next 10 years when they finally decide to pull it off their shelf of shame, I am all for them, especially in deduction games like Awkward Guests or ScandalOh or Alchemists, where the app gives you that sort of randomized combination and makes the possibilities almost endless. Now this one has 3,200 3,200 solutions. And I'll tell you what, if you go through all 3,200 solutions and you remember each one of the 3,200 solutions and you're mad that you can't play it anymore, I will buy it off of you for double what you paid it. That's a Chris George guarantee. Now, they're quite clear that it plays very similarly to Awkward Guess, which is good for me because now I have an excuse to read the rulebook. And basically, you're trying to uncover the story of the ScandalOh, the celebrity involved in said ScandalOh, and the newspaper that will print the story about the celebrity involved in the ScandalOh inside of a duck, inside of a hen, inside of a turkey. Each game you'll shuffle in the required amount of cards, which will make sure that there's only one possible solution to the game, to match the 3 items together and to get the scoop before anybody else. And this might be annoying to search through the 250 cards that they have to set up, but they've brilliantly color-coded the backs of the cards to make it easier to sort through and get these numbers out. And that's the only reason for color coding, which I think is fantastic, and adds those quality of life touches that make me have faith that the rest of the game will be as equally thought out and easy to play. So it'll start out with 16 possible stories laid out on the table, all of which have different connections to various celebrities, and you'll have to narrow down which of them is the correct story and then find the newspaper that will print the story before your opponents do. Honestly, anything that reminds me of those grid deduction puzzles that you used to get as a kid, maybe you used to get as a kid, I don't know what they're called, where the man in yellow owns a dog and the cat owner drinks tea. You know what I'm talking about. You have to figure out who is associated with all these things. I love that stuff. And this reminds me of that. So that's ScandalOh. And if you're interested, you have until 4 p.m. on Wednesday to decide. Now, next up, we have A Viking's Tale, where you take on the role of a peasant squire after his master dies, fueled by his desire for food and glory. He creates a new identity for himself as a knight. And, oh, that's a different tale. In A Viking's Tale, you're going to do what Vikings do best. Fight monsters and each other, all in the pursuit of victory points. As is the Viking custom. As we all know, it is the Vikings who created the modern-day victory point system that we so cherish today. And the Viking with the most points at the end of the game wins. But because Vikings are a peculiar and organized sort, you get extra points if you defeat 3 of the same type of creature, but you also get points for slaying 3 different types of creatures, like that famous Viking movie, 3 Vikings and a Creature. But on your turn, you're going to play one of your Vikings, you have 5, face down in front of the creature you want to fight. If your strength exceeds that of the creature, you slay the creature. Easy. But your opponents can choose to contest you for fighting that creature, and they might have a ranged weapon that they can kill the creature before you. Or they might have an assassination dagger and they just stab you in the back and then go on to kill the creature. And there are these destiny cards which can make the creatures harder to beat. So you're going to play all these different sorts of cards, but the key to this game, and where I think it's a little bit interesting, is that you do that all before the cards are revealed. So it's that element of, am I trying to get you to use up all of your equipment just to take this creature from me, and I'm not actually committing my strongest Viking to fighting that creature? Kind of neat. It's $26, which is a solid price point for this type of game. Usually at this price point, you only see funny card games, so... And if I've learned one thing throughout this time exploring A Viking's Tale, it's that Vikings are anything but funny. Anyway, you have until 4:50 a.m. on Thursday, aka Wednesday night, unless you get up at an ungodly hour. Now next up we have Arkosa, a bunker building board game. Seems like they missed a golden opportunity to call this Barkosa, but you know what? Just this once, I'll let it slide. This is a relaunch, and it's currently at 90% of its funding goal, so I am hopeful that it will make its goal, but I think it's going to come down to the wire. But first off, the art on this one, I think, is next level. The colors are vibrant, it's really visually striking, and it kind of seems like it's going to be a Fallout Shelter, the board game. I only say this for the bunker building aspect and the fact that you get to add different unique rooms into your own personal bunker. And also you're trying to prioritize keeping your people happy and safe from the other inhabitants of Arkosa. And so the point of the game is you're trying to get the best bunker reputation in Arkosa, because only the best bunker and their inhabitants will be rescued from this planet, and the rest will just be inevitably left to be eaten by aliens. They could rescue everyone, but honestly, if you can't keep your bunker people happy, how are you going to contribute to the thriving society that you're about to be a part of? Or as Zack Snyder might say, a society is where we're going to be living. I also love that in the lore of the game, it's a mining ship that is able to squeeze one bunker and no more onto their ship to rescue them, because they're at full capacity, because obviously whatever they were mining is significantly more important than the human lives or the alien lives that they could save from this desolate planet. Okay, I know that if we're going to go down this rabbit hole, it's probably got more to do with the life support capabilities of a ship, because as a mining ship, you know, it's going to be a limited area where the life support will actually be generated, and the rest will be hold for whatever supplies the corporation was mining. But I don't care. I'm going with my theory that they could have just gotten rid of some of their cargo and saved everyone, because I think it's funnier. So sue me. And honestly, it looks pretty decent. I think the only reason it isn't funding yet is because the campaign page doesn't really give a good impression of how it plays. And the rulebook opted for density rather than an increased page count with more illustrations, which can be off-putting if you're just trying to grasp a sense of it. But there's going to be a lot of asymmetry in this game. Just to start up in the setup, you're going to get your unique colony leader. You're going to get some unique bunker rooms, which will generate you different resources. You're going to get some unique founding colonists, which will all have different abilities. Generally, they'll be just producing resources, I think. And so each turn you can take 2 actions. And you're going to keep going around taking 2 actions until you pass. And once you pass, you can't take any more actions. When everybody's passed, the round is over. So kind of similar to terraforming Mars, if you're familiar, if you've heard of it. But what's cool is, of course, there's a slight bonus for passing first. You get a couple extra resources. But obviously, the later you pass, the more things you can do. So I kind of like that. I just like that there is that initial bonus, and I'm hoping that that will play a part into passing now or going later. Kind of in the same way that Terra Mystica does it if you want to snag that extra bonus at the end. But the main actions that you're going to take is going to be sending out your colonists to go collect resources or explore Arkosa in a variety of risky to non-risky expeditions. You can also build rooms in your bunker, you can trade resources with the bank, not with other people, and you can even bribe the planet's inhabitants to increase your reputation so that when the ship comes, all they hear around the water cooler is how incredible Bunker 42 really is. You also have to feed your people, and your rooms will produce stuff that will help that, etc. It looks great. Definitely something that I would be interested in trying out. I really like the art, but best of all with this campaign, they also have their own version of Who's That Pokemon? With their most popular segment, Name That Colonist! And honestly, all of these names are fantastic options. But we know that Brumpgrimp is the clear winner. And any game where I can have a colonist whose name is Brumpgrimp, now you're speaking my language, Arkosa. It's $60 Canadian for the base game, which is also a decent price. What hurts it, at least for Canadians, is that it's $28 shipping to Canada. But if you're in the UK, it's significantly cheaper. US is decent as well. And they offer group shipping, so the more copies you add on, the less it'll be for everyone. Anyway, if you're interested, that is Thursday at 11 a.m. to decide. And speaking of awesome space art, next up we have Solar Sphere, where you can hire your crew, fight off the resistance, and build the Solar Sphere in a highly thematic dice placement game, or at least that's what they tell you as their tagline. It's not a finished rulebook, but I'm happy that there's a prototype out there to give people a sense of what it's going to be, and there's clearly a little bit more streamlining that has to happen with some of the descriptions, but you'll get the gist if you read through it. Basically, the premise is you're trying to gain the most prestige with the corporation by helping them build the Solar Sphere. Yeah, because that's what we all want to do, is build prestige with a faceless, nameless corporation. On a related note, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Now, you're going to do so by sending out your various ships, which are represented by dice, to various locations, and you're going to get stuff. Usually resources, but to go to the location, you have to have rolled the correct die number. But don't worry, you can also mitigate that with drones. So there's a cool back and forth of when do you use your drones? Do you just get rid of a drone entirely for a one-time bonus? And then you're going to use those resources that you collect to build portions of the solar sphere. You also need to keep up your crew's morale, fight off the rebels who don't want the solar sphere to be built. Why not? I don't know. I don't even know what the solar sphere does. I just know that the corporation wants it to exist. And the morale manipulation is a little bit to the key of where this game lies. You're going to be refueling and gaining more morale at the beginning of the round, but then you can also use that morale or seek out aid from the corporation, which obviously your crew, being sensible crew members, they don't like when you're reaching out to the corporation, but every time you do, you get bonuses for that round. So it's kind of a give and take of managing that morale and getting as many bonuses as you can in the process. I also like that the sphere itself must expand naturally from its drone points. So that makes the modular board aspect a little bit more significant. You shuffle up the hex tiles and create this sort of solar sphere so that you can ultimately harness the power of the sun or destroy it. Again, I don't know. We may never know, but what we do know is the base game is 57 bucks Canadian, and it has really, really reasonable shipping to US and Europe especially, and even on the higher end to Canada for 16 bucks. So check it out if you're interested. The deadline for that is 5 p.m. Thursday. Now next up, we have a game called Crazy Cake. And I'm really not going to talk about this game that much at all. It's a light card game that's too expensive for me, where you try to make the best 3-tiered cake with as many wacky ingredients as you can, like chocolate or ice cream. Okay, no, those are pretty standard ingredients. Or sauerkraut. Now we're getting somewhere. I mean, it's clearly not for me. I'm not the target audience. I don't even have enough enthusiasm to sound my funny card air horn. Maybe those ingredients aren't wacky enough. Even though their intro video is children in chef's hats pulling out wacky ingredients from a bag like octopuses or hot dogs, and actually no, this is starting to sound like it's going to be more my speed. But the only reason I'm really talking about it and sharing it with you is because I think it's very funny that the first thing you basically see on their campaign page, aside from what's in the box, is the very real testimonial from famed Jeff Goldblum impersonator, Chef Duff Goldman. It's just from Cameo. I don't understand this marketing decision. He has clearly never played it. He's clearly reading from a script. And he clearly was never in Jurassic Park. Why would that make anyone want to get this game? Especially when you have so many videos, other videos of people showcasing the actual product right below it. I don't know, maybe a friend got it for the designer and they thought it was cute and they put it up. I mean, it's fine. Some master baker out there has to tell me the cachet that famed Jeff Goldblum impersonator Chef Duff Goldman has in the crazy cake community, and if it would really make people want to get the game or not. Because I certainly did not see him as a guest host in Sugar Rush, so might as well be garbage. Anyway, if you're interested in that, that's Friday at 12:59 a.m., aka Thursday night. Now, next up, we have Code Crackers. And honestly, they have clearly tapped into my heart, and everybody should go buy it, or Ramona the Pug will be very, very sad. And we can't have Ramona sad because look at her, she's incredible. She's obviously a sweet, good girl. From a terrible marketing decision to the best marketing decision I've ever seen, Dog Park Who, I'm getting Code Crackers. And I will not be showing any other part of the game except for this, which is too bad because it's actually a solid, funny intro video. There's a great intro line of, "Are you tired of not having any portable, lightweight, 2-player, dedicated, dry erase number deduction games? What is that doing up here? Bring back Ramona." Anyway, you're going to have to be the first person to solve the 3, 4, and 5 numbered code of your opponent. And you'll do this by asking them predetermined questions like, what is the sum of your first and last number? You'll have this dry erase board that you can keep track of the clues and start to deduce what the number is. And it's cute. I think it's cute. I think it would be cute for kids who are just learning math. I don't like that the cards, the questions that you ask are predetermined. That kind of makes it feel like you don't really have any agency. But again, I get it because there's probably an optimal order to asking these questions to solve the thing. And once you've figured that out, well, then the game might end up being a little bit by rote. So this gives it a more random element and forces you to think in different ways instead of the same way every time. So I get it. I still don't like it, but I get it. What's also cool is they have a donate a game option. So if you're just feeling generous, and we saw how generous people could be with Earth Rising and the 8 backers that decided to donate a game there, well, then you can donate a game. It's at 97% funded. I'm happy for them. And if you're interested, that's Friday at 2 p.m. Now next up we have Artisans of Splendent Vale, whose tagline is a cooperative adventure game set in the magical land of beauty, adventure, and magic. Well, I'm glad if we take the beauty and the adventure out of it, we still have a magical land filled with magic. Or maybe we could have a cooperative adventure game filled with adventure. More like Artisans of Redundant Vale. But that aside, this is probably the cutest game I've seen since Flamecraft. The art style is pretty similar, and if you're looking to inject some cuteness into your game nights and you don't have Ramona on standby, well, this certainly might take the cake. The crazy cake. Or just a regular kind. I can only assume with an art style this cute that a cake will be one of your items. But don't let this cuteness fool you. This is another gigantic cooperative adventure campaign style game, where you're going to explore the Vale and level up your craftsmanship abilities until you are the most resplendent of them all. Or you all are, because it's cooperative, so that you're all the most resplendent of the splendents. Now first things first, I absolutely love this character design. You have all unique, interesting characters with a heavy focus on diversity and inclusion. You have some non-binary characters in there. You have this guy with horns who lost his arm to a meteor. Javi, who's badass. And it just shows that, yeah, including diversity into your games and your character design is a great thing, especially in a fantasy setting. And it's something we can do, are perfectly capable of, and nobody's going to even really care or clock. That's just the world, and these characters are cool. I like playing characters who aren't me, mostly because I generally hate myself. But I also love seeing characters drawn that I can relate to and get into, and I think this speaks to all of that. It's a damn magical world filled with magic, and these characters feel already, on just the surface level, so much more realized and complete than just another tall, skinny mage with a beard and a staff. Which speaks to the immersion of this game, and immersion is something that I want in these types of games, especially want in these types of narrative games. It just already feels deep and rich, and that's just from looking at the campaign page, which is cool. And I also like the theme too, because it's all about exploring and honing your crafts. And it's not the sort of standard, you're a mercenary and you're going to run around fighting stuff. Although there are going to be monsters that pop up that you will fight. And that's going to be dealt with some dice rolling, injury dealing goodness, as is the theme of these sorts of games. Your standard, go out and take out all the monsters who just appeared in this location that you were just exploring. But it does remind me of Lands of Galzir a little bit, because every character is also going to have their own book, which is filled with text. There's going to be lots and lots of story. You're even supposed to nominate a narrator who can deal with most of the story. So if you don't like that heavy narration, that might be a reason to take a pass. It's also $99 US for the base pledge, which is pretty expensive when you compare it to other games at that price point, and see that this one doesn't have the miniatures that are usually included in these sorts of style of games. They have little meeples, and the meeples look really cool and interesting, but usually that extra cost bump is associated because there are miniatures, and you see a meeple tier or a standee tier at a reduced price. And so I assume that it costs less to produce, and that the majority of that cost then has gone into the story. Which, to be fair, they're giving you a 50-hour campaign versus the 30 to 40-hour campaigns that are usually associated with this frame of game. But at the same time, it's probably only 50 hours because of the bulk of narration that you're going to end up reading. That would be my current guess. What I do love is that you get to investigate the scene and explore an area at certain points, but depending on the characters that you're playing with, you might see different things, or there might be different points of interest. Because yeah, obviously the artificer will know more things about meteors, and the plant specialist will see something unique about that tree. So for me, because of that, it makes it seem like 4 players would be the optimal player count, or 2 players running through it twice. Again, I don't know if anyone ever uses a recharge pack frequently. I know people whose games are they become their favorite games will use that recharge pack, but with narrative games, I find the joy is the exploration, and so having all the characters who can contribute to the exploration and who can contribute to that world might be a good thing. It's also got a book board, which I love seeing more and more. As someone who loves optimizing setup and teardown, anything that can get you playing the game faster is a huge plus in my books, but again, a little bit more on the pricier side, so you'll have to see if that narrative aspect is worth it to you and if the world brings you in. If you're interested, that's Friday, October 8th at 7 p.m. to decide. Now, next up we have SHASN AZADI, where you can ignite the revolution, topple the Imperials, and emerge as the leader of a new nation, which is a semi-co-op retelling of rebellion through the ages, or at least that's what their tagline says. Now, this is an expansion to SHASN, which I remember was on Kickstarter a while ago, and I remember looking at it and thinking, yeah, this looks really cool. It was just a little bit too pricey for my taste. And it's still that expensive. In fact, I think it's even a bit more expensive now. And adding the expansion on top of that, well, the expansion is no different a price point. But it's raised almost $200,000 Canadian, and a lot of that is from return backers. So that's a nice point that you can see that it's people wanting to come back for more. But oof, this is one heck of a video. It almost looks like a recruitment propaganda fight for your nation's war video than it does look like a game, which is cool in terms of the theme that it brings forward. It's very thematic, almost a triggering amount of theme. It's semi-co-op because you're going to all work together to defeat the Imperials, but only one of you can emerge as the leader at the end. So you're going to have to manage your own personal interests with taking down the Imperial sons of whatever. Because you can do it in whatever revolutionary period that you'd like. American, Russian, South Asian. They've got them all. It seems epic, and it has an epic price tag to match. But honestly, if you're interested, before you back, make sure you go check out the reviews of SHASN on Board Game Geek. Because it sounds fun to me, but there are a lot of people who say that the mechanics sometimes get a little bit stale. The most telling description of it for me was that it's a political area control game. And the basic gist of it is that you answer a yes or no question at the beginning of your turn, kind of like you were at a debate. And if you answer yes, you get a set of resources, and if you answer no, you get a different set of resources, but you don't know the resources that you will get until you answer. So you have to kind of discern what the right answer might be to get the resources that you want. I can see how that could get stale over time, but on the other hand, it also sounds neat. It's going to be long, though. It's a long game, longer than it tells you, and I don't know if that huge price tag is worth it to me. You certainly don't need it, but hey, if you want it, that's Saturday night at 12 a.m., aka Friday night, aka Saturday morning. Now, next up we have Eastern Empires, which is a 3 to 9 player civilization game, originally designed as a 5 to 9 player civilization game, but they now have 3 to 4 player specific scenarios, which when you combine it with Western Empires, can give you mega empires, an 18 player experience. I need to know, who are these people who are getting together over, I can only assume, a year's time to play this epic 18-person civilization game? I cannot fathom a world or even a house where these 18 people could gather. What table are you going to be sitting at? How are 18 players committing to this intense diplomacy game? And how long is it really going to take with 18 players? I cannot even fathom. I can't imagine. I mean, it's lucky that a lot of the action is simultaneous, but not all of it. Conflicts have to be resolved as they come up, and there is that time where you all get up from the table. It says get out of your seats and trade with literally everyone. So set a timer for that frenetic trading event as people try to get rid of their calamity cards in exchange for goods, aka giving away the hurricanes that were going to affect their lands and now will affect someone else. You're not just building civilizations, you are shaping the world as we know it. You might as well be gods. This thought terrifies me, and yet the power is intoxicating. There are at least 317 people out there who have spent the $264 Canadian to get both Western and Eastern empires to form that mega empire. And I can only assume they all know 18 people who are interested in playing this mega empire experience. That's 5,706 people right there, if my math is right. Because of course I just did that on the fly. I guess that's the market you have been waiting for, Eastern empires. But I can see the draw to getting Eastern empires if you do have Western empires, because they are including this 3 to 4 player scenario, which wasn't included in Western empires to start. So if you were one of those people with hope in their hearts, I used to be one of you, who thought you could get up to 5 and only had 4, well then maybe this gives you an opportunity for you and your group to be able to delve into both of these games. And also another great part about this is that it's been in development since around 2000. The kernels of the idea started to spark. It said it's been in development for 10 years because it takes a long time to get 18 players together to play test it. Yeah, I can see how that would be difficult. But if you or your group go crazy over civilization games, this seems like one that would encourage that madness. It's huge, but it also actually seems pretty simple. The phases are fairly clear. It's a great Kickstarter page. They break it down very accessibly. It's clear what to do. The big thing will be to figure out when and why. I guess that could be the question for this whole mega empires. Why? Why not? The base pledge is still $176 Canadian if you're interested in picking up Eastern Empires, and you have until Sunday at 8:59 a.m. to decide. Next up, if you're tired that there's not enough fantasy in the fantasy football, well, move over 11 because we got Myth and Goal. Okay, fine, I know they're 2 different footballs, but this one has orcs. It's for 1 to 2 players, and I am very happy that it's not trying to cram in a 4-player variant out there just to say it. It knows it's 1 to 2 players, head to head, 2 teams battling it out for fantasy football domination. And so the game is, it's football. Have you heard of football? America's former favorite pastime until they discovered board games. You have 4 teams to choose from. You're gonna have 8 players on each team, and you can put 5 of them on the field, the 3 that will get subbed in later on in between the periods. There's going to be aggressor and a defender, which will usually alternate between the periods, and you want to get your little football to the end goal, or throw it through their hoop and get a field goal. Now you'll do this by assigning any of your limited actions to any number of characters that you want. So you can run your star quarter orc into the ground just to get him into that elf zone. I think that's what they're called. Basically making him unplayable due to his exhaustion for the rest of the game. Or you can distribute your actions equally, which will keep your team fit, but it will lack the effect of those explosive moves. All the while resolving encounters with dice chucking madness and seeing which bones end up on top of the dog pile and which bones end up being broken. In Myth and Goal, anything is possible. I mean, well, not anything, but you'll be playing football, and that'll be possible, and your teams will hit each other. It's good. It makes you want to throw that dwarf skin around. There's also going to be a mode where you can draft your team so you don't have to stick with the preset teams, which is great to have that option for experienced players. All in all, it's very charming. It's $109 for the miniatures version, but there is a standee version, which it drives me nuts that isn't the first one highlighted to ease people into the game. Instead, they're trying to thrust upon this miniatures version on top of you. But for $50 for the standee version, yeah, it's pretty decent. It seems pretty doable if you're into it. So that's next Monday at 9 p.m. to decide. Now, 2 more. Next up, we have Pirate Party, Women of the High Seas. And yeah, it is called Pirate Party, but it's not quite like a party. It's just like your party. I don't know. I mean, the highlight for me here, and I think the highlight of the game for pretty much everyone, is that it highlights these women pirates, these famous women pirates in history, which I think is cool. Super interesting. Although there is only one woman pirate who will forever have my heart, and that is, of course, Kira.
Me?
Of course, it is Maggie. Of course it was Maggie. Who else could it have been, huh?
It certainly sounded like you were about to say someone else.
No. If I could whittle your image
in
wood and put it on the mast of my non-existent ship, well, you know.
You're a charmer.
Let's be real. You're the scurviest of them all.
Well, that's just because I'm allergic to strawberries.
I mean, that wasn't really what I was saying. There are other fruits and vegetables.
Right, like peppers.
No. Oh. I really set myself up for that one. But other than highlighting women pirates, also known as pirates, it's basically extended gin rummy. You're going to draw a card on your turn and then play sets of the same suit or sets of the same thing. And then you'll be able to score those points at the end of the game. You keep drawing cards and playing cards until you reveal the Kraken card, and he then presumably eats everybody around the table. I guess the trick here is to commit to getting those pirate points before the Kraken pops up, which means you may want to use your wild mermaid cards and incorporate them into a set instead of waiting around hoping you can get 3 mermaids for 75 points, which is obviously going to win you the round and probably the game. And of course, there's also going to be a lot of cards here that you can play against other people, forcing them to discard stuff, and you know how that goes. I was really excited by the theme. I'm definitely not that excited about the gameplay, and it has a price of $28 Canadian, which is a little too pricey for my taste. So it doesn't seem like it's in the cards for me, but if you're interested, that's Tuesday at 1 a.m., aka Monday night. And finally, last and least funded, we have Treasure Cats. It's hit its goal. It was just a very small goal of $500. Now, what would be a good tagline for Treasure Cats, a social bluffing game for 3 to 11 players? Well, I guess I'd have to say that Treasure Cats is a social bluffing game for 3 to 11 players. Gets the message across, I guess. Anyway, if you haven't noticed, it's a social bluffing game for 3 to 11 players. And honestly, that 11 player count is key for me because Avalon and One Night Werewolf, well, they only go up to 10. So maybe Treasure Cats is the bluffing game to hone in on that 11 player market. I certainly hope they're not about to pull the wool out from under my feet with their opening video.
Treasure Cats is for 3 to 9 players. For 3 to 9 players.
No, I think they've unlocked more stretch goals, which has therefore bumped up the possible player count. Anyway, the premise is simple. You get dealt 2 cards. Each card is going to have an item on top and a location on the bottom. And you put it in front of you, revealing either the item or the location. And the goal of the game is to have the location that the most people have put down or the most valuable items are in at the end of the game. I mean, it seems interesting until you kind of realize that you're just playing with the same cards over and over, and therefore the bluffing aspect of it kind of goes out the window, and you only get to use your item's ability if it's face up. So it's kind of like play your cards and see who wins. I don't really see the bluffing or the social aspect of this, which really bums me out. I think there's something here. There's a kernel of an idea here, but I just don't see it being something that I want at this current moment in time. I mean, honestly, for a 2-page rulebook, it's more confusing than Eastern Empire's whole Kickstarter page, and that should absolutely not be the case. But if you wanted to give it a try, and maybe it'll surprise you, it's only $10. Shipping to Canada is $8 though. Shipping to the US is $4. I just think it needs a little bit more development, a little bit more social, and a little bit more bluffing to make it not feel like it's just lay your cards down and see who wins. I'm disappointed to end this way. I was excited to end with a bluffing game. Anything that has bluffing in it gets me immediately excited. I was like, yes, a small game to highlight. But unfortunately, it's not looking like it's for me. But if you want it, hey, that is next Tuesday at 6 p.m. And we made it! This was surprisingly a long one. I wonder what sort of 20-minute rants happened at the beginning of the video that caused it to be this way. But thank you for sticking with me. Anyway, every week I do a pick for me and a pick for you. The pick for me is obviously what I am the most interested in this week. And for me, there's a couple, but I'm gonna have to give the nod to a ScandalOh. 1, because I like saying the name, and 2, because I like deduction, and 3, because the art looks great, and 4, it seems like a reasonable price. I don't know, it just looks really fun. I can see the replayability, I can see how the deduction aspect is going to work, and that appeals to me and excites me and reminds me of my deducting youth, like when I would read Encyclopedia Brown. Did you ever read those books? Anyway, ScandalOh, it looks great. The price point seems reasonable for Kickstarter. Again, I don't know if it's one where I would back on Kickstarter. I know it's kind of hard to find awkward guests at the retail level right now, so that is making me lean more towards it. But again, you know that I hate shipping and I say it so much. I'd have to wait and see, but in terms of gameplay, in terms of just the game itself, this seems funny and fun. So that is my pick for me, ScandalOh. And my pick for you, because maybe you don't like deduction games, but I think this one looks really good. It's space themed. We've narrowed it down to 2, and that is Arkosa. Honestly, Solar Sphere does look great too, but there's something about Arkosa that is really speaking to me. And I want to highlight it because, well, 1, it's struggling to hit that funding goal, but I think it can get there. And 2, because I think it looks really interesting. I mean, if you're in Canada, well, don't get it, because that shipping is astronomical. If you're not, the art looks exciting. I love the variability, again, that I think this game can provide. The components look quality. I think it's going to be a really fun resource management type of thing, while getting to get unique colonists, deciding what to do on your turn, weighing your reputation against other things. And I hope it hits its funding goal, because it looks really good. So if there's one that I think you should take a second look at, it would definitely be Arkosa, because Brump Grimp is waiting for you. I think that was his name. I forget. Ugh. I know one of the options was Glormph, which is also really good. They're all good. Anyway, check out Arkosa. I hope it hits its funding, because I do think it looks quite good. I remember the first time I was like, yeah, that looks neat. And then was surprised when it didn't fund. And I'm equally surprised that it hasn't hit its funding, because I think there are some solid underlying mechanics there that will result in fun. So that's it. My pick for you, Arkosa. Well, I'm out of here. We're done. Thank you for sticking with me, hanging out. I like hanging out with you all. Let me know in the comments, what are you backing? What aren't you? I know somebody mentioned earlier that they were having their eyes on Arkosa in a previous video, and I can see why. So yeah, let me know, what are you backing? What are you not? I hope you're having a wonderful day, and it continues to be wonderful. Once again, my name's Chris George, and I still do not have a catchphrase. And at this point, it's just getting embarrassing. And I'm trying to think of a joke from this one. I can't. You know, it would have been really good if I had paid for a Duff Goldman cameo and then had him say something right now. That would have been good. He's probably too expensive for my taste. I'd rather spend that money on board games. Anyway, I'll see you next time.